Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
All right, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Tyler Beck, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Benjamin Lawhorn.
Hello.
Hello. You're going with just the classic salutations lately. I like it.
Yeah, I got my,
Classic.
it's hard when Matt's here. I want to leave him the good one, and then I just get
Yeah.
the pressure. I was like, well, I can't. I think about it too late. I think when the person starts talking, I'm like, oh, wait, is
Yeah.
there something I can say to reference the movie? And I was like, I could do like, hello, Mr. Anderson, but it's too late. I blew it.
It's too late.
We just got to
Too
keep
late.
going.
Yeah. Matt usually comes prepared with those, but unfortunately, he made a deal with Agent Smith, got himself a nice juicy steak, and he will not be joining us today. If you're new to the show, allow me to welcome you. Let me be the first to welcome you to our movie club. And for those of you returning, welcome back. We're certainly happy to have you all here. And if you could tell your friends and family where they can find us, we're everywhere at 3 Films Pod. And you can check out our merch and Patreon support options at 3filmspod.com. And before we dive into this week's movie, I've got to allow our very special guest, Kayla from ScreenVomit. Kayla, say hello to the people.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What you doing, son?
Hell yeah. That's what I needed.
Yeah. So
That
I was
Ben
off
went
the dome
classic.
too. I didn't plan that. So
I
I'm
love
just
it.
saying, Ben, there's hope for you.
Yeah, there's still time. We'll figure it out.
Ben went classic. Kayla went like 90s retro. That was cool.
Yeah. I'd be more concerned if you'd been planning that and if it wasn't off the dome. Like, ooh, I already know what I'm going to say
Like,
next
I
week.
Can't wait to
Ready
what's
to
up these
go.
guys.
Writing was up into the notes.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm watching
Now
scary
I'm kind of
movie.
disappointed you didn't. So Kayla, you joined us a while back to
I
talk
did.
about The Lost Daughter during
Mhm.
our female gaze round. So if people haven't listened to that, they should go back and check it out. In the meantime, before they leave this episode and go listen to the other episode you were on, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your podcast and all those sorts of fun things?
Cool. Yeah. So I host a podcast called ScreenVomit. I cover movies from the last 10 years of any genre, always with a guest, usually somebody either from the film industry, comedians, artists, musicians, whatever, somebody cool as hell.
Hell yeah. It's a prerequisite. Yeah, but cool as hell.
Yeah, prereq, you got to be cool as hell to come on the
Gotta
pod.
That's why we haven't been on yet, everybody. We're working on it. Maybe by the end of this episode, but we'll see. Don't, cross our fingers.
We're
here.
auditioning super hard, but it's just, we haven't quite gotten there yet.
These days, I'm down to about 1 episode a month. So,
Nice.
they're a little spread out, hoping to be having more than that. But you know what? I have 3 years plus of backlog. So there's always log to
Yeah, you're
review.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty
Review
to catch
my
up on.
logs, okay?
Yeah.
Check the feed, subscribe.
After what
and
we
check
talked
the
about
feed.
earlier.
Is this
I
a
don't
good
know.
introduction for my podcast?
It's
It's
perfect.
great. I'm sold.
Oh, also for anybody watching, I guess, and or listening, you can get awesome merch.
Oh my gosh, you
Look at that shirt.
Oh, snap.
Look at that shirt.
Aw,
So go get the merch. I love this
Thank
shirt.
you. For anybody listening, he's freaking wearing my podcast shirt. That's so cute. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So go get it.
Aw. Yeah, I got really cool shirts made by my friend Franco K. Drew up this design and it just rocks. I'm so
It does
excited
rock.
with this design. Yeah.
Cool as hell.
It's cool to have talented
Cool.
friends.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Franco K. They're moving to Japan tomorrow. So
Whoa.
Whoa.
yeah, to
That's
go to art
awesome.
school. So if you're
Oh,
out
yeah.
in Japan, find them.
Yeah.
It'd be real easy too. Just go wander the streets of Tokyo.
You'll probably see them. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
Start yelling.
some cool Chicago guy just out in Japan. I mean, he
Yeah.
probably sticks out like a sore thumb.
You
I would
gotta get him a
imagine.
shirt to wear out there.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's my podcast. It's just a bunch of goofy clowns talking about movies.
It's good stuff. I highly recommend it.
Seems
It's
like
good
anybody who listens to this pod would probably like it.
I
I
would
think
imagine.
so.
It would be really surprising if they've liked one and not the other specifically, whichever direction it went.
Yeah.
That would make me laugh. Well, so this week's episode finds us at the beginning of a brand new round, having just wrapped up our exploration of LGBTQ plus themed movies.
Mhm.
Go back and check those episodes out if you haven't already. We watched some really, really great stuff. It was kind of a bummer. All of our guests ghosted us.
Yeah.
One of them was my fault. One of them was my fault. I'll take credit for
all
one.
of your guests for your queer movies?
Yeah, it was such a bummer. I
And
was
you
so
didn't
stoked
ask
to
me
talk to
one
people.
time.
We did.
Interesting.
We did one time, but it was schedule didn't work out. We were done with The Handmaiden, but unfortunately it didn't work out.
Well, that was very last minute and very late at night.
Well, that's when we got ghosted. Was very last minute, very late at night. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
we're in different time zones.
That's true.
For the layman out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So they go, "Can you start recording an episode at 10:30 p.m.?" And I go, "There's no way."
No.
Not a chance.
I'd love to say that I could, but I'd be like, huh?
Well, we'll DoorDash you a Red Bull. The offer is
also,
open.
I have
Anybody
done
wants
Handmaiden
one.
for my podcast too, so that was
nice. So go check that one out and get a shirt.
Yeah, and get a shirt.
So we're being straight this week. They invited on a straight guest, straight person, to talk about The Matrix. We're no longer queer. Matrix also a straight movie.
Very straight, very straight movie.
Just kidding. I pranked the audience.
You got him.
I'm queer as hell. They're getting it in late.
Nobody saw it coming. I love it.
Damn, got y'all's asses.
Boom, roasted.
Queer as hell.
Queer as hell.
No, that's the Screen Vomit t-shirt I want.
Yeah.
Queer as hell.
Yeah. Draw that out on the plane flight over. He's got plenty of time.
Once I figure out how to make t-shirt art, it's over for you hosts. Once I figure out literally any image software and quit using Microsoft Paint, it's literally over for you hosts.
But Microsoft Paint has a certain charm to it that I think could lend to the aesthetic.
It's the only thing I can figure out. That and Canva. Canva really makes me seem like a pro.
Totally.
But,
you can whip up some great stuff on there.
Yeah, not making anything unique though.
Well,
I'm sorry I've interrupted and absolutely derailed the podcast.
No, it's all good.
2 seconds into it.
I'll try and wrangle us back. It's okay.
Good luck.
At a certain point, we do need to talk about this movie and this new round that we're entering.
Make me.
We are going to explore some famous trilogies. Basically, we had some.
I came into the pod with insane energy, and I'm carrying it on. Sorry to your listeners.
No, it's all good.
And sorry to you. I'm apologizing. I'm normal now.
You're good.
Everything's the same. Everything's good.
Basically we're exploring trilogies. We had done this before in season 1 of our podcast. And we had so many different trilogies we wanted to do. We had so many that carried over that we didn't
trilogies
get to
that
do.
You did in season 1.
So we did the Before trilogy, we did the Blade trilogy, and we did the Apu trilogy. And all 3 of those better fit the criteria of this podcast than the 3 trilogies we're going to be entering in the next few rounds. Because none of us had really seen any of those other trilogies. In fact, I hadn't seen any of the 9 from before Blade or Apu trilogy. And so we had to do those because it better fits the theme of our podcast. Whereas the trilogies we're entering, I think all of us had seen most of, if not all of, some combination of the movies.
Took a little leniency because I saw Lord of the Rings in the theaters once, and that was it. So I don't remember it at all. So that's why I picked that one. It's like I've technically seen it, but I couldn't tell you much about it. And then the Dollars trilogy, I don't think any of us have seen that. The thing I'm glad we're doing this time is we're not doing all 3 movies in one episode, because that was kind of a nightmare to watch 9 movies for 3 episodes. So I'm glad we learned and we're doing one.
I was going to mention, we did do 3 movies per episode in that last round. So we did 3 total episodes, 9 movies. And this time we're like,
that's fucked up.
Space this out a little bit. That was a little
sorry intense.
To cuss. Yeah,
sorry,
man.
Steve.
So you just have to apologize to Steve. That's all.
Sorry, Steve.
There you go. So yeah, this time we broke it up. We're going to talk about each trilogy. Each movie is its own episode. So this one round actually spans 3 rounds, but that doesn't really matter for the listeners out there. You don't care. It's just on your podcast feed, and you just listen as it comes in. But we wanted to do these trilogies because, I mean, speaking for me personally, these trilogies, of the 9 movies, 2 of them are some of my favorites of all time, which includes the movie that we're going to talk about tonight.
Spoiler.
Yeah, right. And to kick things off, we are going to free our minds and we're going to hop into The Matrix. All of that said, this week's episode is all about the landmark film directed by Lily and Lana Wachowski, starring Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Lawrence Fishburne. It's the 1999 blockbuster film, The Matrix. I mentioned that it's one of my favorite movies of all time, but Kayla, I want to know your personal experience and your first impressions of the movie when you saw it. How many times have you seen it? Your overall thoughts, all that good stuff. I want to hear it from our guest.
Okay, so any do you guys have a name for your listeners?
Movie Club.
The Movie Club? Any movie club heads that listened to my previous episode with these fellas will remember that I mentioned I've never seen any normal movies. I only watch weird stuff. Never heard of any normal movies. I don't know. That's why
anything. I was so curious. I was because I was like, so, they hadn't seen any of the movies that I had.
Yeah. So I just watched this movie. I watched this movie for the first time maybe 2 years ago. And I mean, this is a pretty large movie. I was of age to see it when it came out. It's been in the zeitgeist my entire life. Never watched it till 2 years ago. And that was the first time I had seen it. Didn't really remember anything about it by the time I got to this time, except for one scene, which I had watched making of previously. And I remember the making of actually more than the actual movie.
I love it.
Because the making of was so badass. So my first impression of the movie this time, it's just badass from T to B. It's really keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's so fun. This is what I like to call a hell yeah movie.
Oh yeah.
Movies that make you say hell yeah. It's a hoot and holler. It's a great film, and you really can't say that it's not. Sorry.
Yeah. It's illegal.
Even for having it's hard with movies that have a lot of technology that were based in times before technology was even close to where it is now.
Yeah.
It's really easy for them to be dated and become silly.
Totally.
And in ways there's still silliness, but I think that it doesn't lose its intensity because of that silliness. And I think that that's kind of special too.
I think, especially in comparison to the other 2 films that follow this, they had much more of a restriction as far as their budget was concerned and what the studio was going to allow them to do and would be willing to pay for. I mean, they had to move the production to Australia to make it cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think those limitations made them not lean quite so hard on the technology. They did a lot of things practically. There was a lot more practical effects, and there was just less lean on the computer, so to speak. Because I've watched this first one, The Matrix, and Reloaded over the last couple days, and it's the difference is unbelievable. The second movie is practically just a computer generated movie, in a lot of ways. And that's my biggest complaint. And in juxtaposition to The Matrix, everything seems real. It seems like they had to make these sets. I read that they couldn't find places in Australia that looked enough like rundown American, grimy streets. So a lot of like the grimy street footage that we see is actually created from the ground up practically. And you can really tell, and I think it really works. And I think it's, despite all the things technologically and whatever that came out of this movie, I mean, this movie really did change the game for the way we think of CGI and what we think is possible and the things and techniques that we can use. I, people that make movies can use. Say we like that make movies, but you know what I mean. And I think you're right. Like, even though you can tell and it does seem dated, it doesn't take anything away from the movie because it's not leaning so hard on it. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this movie is it stays good. You know what I mean? It hasn't, it is dated and it looks dated at sometimes, but it just doesn't matter because it's so fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool, obviously, like making the bullet time, which then feels like it went into every movie. It was like legally required that if you made a movie between like 2000 and 2004, you had to put some bullet time sequence in there. Which was like, it was very cool to see it for the first time. But yeah, going back and watching it, like the little creature that goes in his belly, it's just like,
that was big for the time too.
Yeah, it really was. It was huge. And I think that's where we have whatever, now 23 years later, it's like, oh, you can tell like, oh, the shading's off a little bit, whatever, but it's like back then it's like, oh,
it was a Korn music video that did it as well around this time, maybe even a year earlier.
Oh, really?
Oh, nice. Shit, I don't remember that.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like, I think it felt like there was a lot of like, it's very tactile, I guess, like everything was, it's like the original Star Wars trilogy versus like the prequels, where then everything's like CG. It's kind of what Revolutions and Reloaded kind of feel like, but this one definitely felt grimy. I'm surprised to hear they built it from the ground up, but I watched this for the first time, not in theaters. I was staying out with my dad and his partner, and I was at their place, and my dad's partner, Joe, was like, hey, have you seen The Matrix? I'm like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so he put it on his little, probably like a 12-inch screen laptop or something like that. Cause that's like, he just had like
what year was this?
I mean, I don't know, like maybe 2000 or something like that. Like he, he just was connected with the tech people. So he had some sort of like illegal version of it, and so yeah, I don't know, I was sitting at some laptop and I just sat there for 2 hours straight, like, holy shit, this is awesome. We'll talk about opening sequences, but I was just hooked, you know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, I have no idea what this is, but I am on board. And it was cool because he didn't really tell me anything about it. He's like, just watch it, like, see what you think. So it's crazy to me that like the movie is just so impactful that I was super immersed in it, even though I was just sitting in some condo in Pacifica, on this little 12-inch Dell laptop. And I was like, holy
have you
shit,
gotten the opportunity to see it in theaters since then?
I don't know that I've ever seen it in theaters, actually.
If we ever get the chance, we got to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty awesome. So I don't know. I loved it. I was super hooked. My dad and I then went and saw Reloaded and like, the IMAX, whatever, when it came out. And that was like a cool experience. I obviously wish it could have been the first movie, but I mean, I loved it. I feel like it introduced a lot of new stuff, at least new to me. And some of the performances were just really cool to watch later on. Cause I was into everything, but now like looking back on it and just, I think this time as I was watching, it's like, man, these people signed up for something that could have really flopped, because they took a lot of chances with this. Like it was kind of out there. It's like, it's kind of anime, it's kind of noir, it's kind of whatever, but like they trained for months. Everyone is super into it. And I think that's obviously what helps it as well. Cause it all paid off. This movie's huge for a reason,
For sure. I'm actually like, I'm glad to hear that your first experience with the movie was on a laptop and that they still had that much of an impact, because I think that's another key difference between this movie and the ones that followed it, is that it seems like they were really leaning on a big, overwhelming, like visual experience to carry those movies. Whereas this movie, it was more about like exploring ideas and like exploring a new world and introducing new characters and blowing your mind, as it were. You know what I mean? Like freeing your mind. And I just feel like it makes me happy to hear that, because my first experience was at a theater, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget what it was like to see this movie for the first time. And I always thought that was because of being on a big screen and all the noise and all the, just the wall of imagery coming at me. And I think it's just a good testament to actually, how really well put together and well written this movie is. Kayla, you just watched it for the first time 2 years ago. Did you watch it like with people? Did you watch it by yourself?
I watched it with one person, and I think I also watched the second one at that time. I don't remember the second one at all. Couldn't tell you anything that happens. I don't know.
Do you remember the person you saw it with?
Huh?
The person you saw it with, do you remember them?
Trying to forget,
Trying
honestly.
to forget. Perfect.
Fair enough.
Was it on their recommendation, or how did you come about?
Yeah, they made me watch it. I think it was like around the same time that one of the John Wicks was coming out.
Oh, okay.
So we watched like a bunch of the special features on the John Wick DVD or Blu-ray or something. And then we just were like in I don't know, DVD, all Blu-rays are DVDs. Okay. So don't come at me.
Yeah.
All Blu-rays are DVDs. Not all DVDs are Blu-rays. Okay. So everything's a DVD. We watched a bunch of special features on that. And just like watching Keanu, because he does all of his own stunts basically, or at least the majority of them. And all of his own like fighting and his gun work and all that kind of stuff. It's really insane to watch those like making ofs and behind the scenes stuff on the John Wick films. And it's equally insane to watch it on these films. Like that's what I remembered was their training for that kung fu scene or whatever you call it. It's just, it's fucking crazy to watch. It's crazy to watch how dedicated he is, even to something stupid or something he doesn't know how it might go. He just fully goes ham and goes hard, and I respect that.
Totally.
One of the things I loved about the John Wick one, this is obviously not about the movie we're talking about, but I think it's the first movie where people come into his house and break in, and they basically just like recycled the like 4 or 5 stunt people. Like he would kill them or whatever, and then the camera would keep moving, and they would like run behind the partition, and then they were all kind of silhouetted. It's like that's really smart. That's a great way to do this because it's got great camera work. Like instead of 15 of them, what if we have 5 and they all just like kind of come back? Like it's
just
really
watching him training is so crazy.
It's so good. Yeah, it's
awesome.
So cool.
Apparently, the Wachowskis made all the actors read a handful of books and really understand the philosophy behind what they were talking about. And also like the helicopter scene where the crashes into the building, like that took 6 months to prepare. Like I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but it's bonkers how much time they put into prepping. And
these days, the kind of concept behind this is sort of corny. But back then, this was really like people weren't talking about like we're all in a simulation,
Right.
The simulation theory or whatever they call it.
Totally.
It wasn't as much in normal people's conversation, maybe in weirdo freaks conversation, but like these days, that's like a pretty well-known thing, and probably a huge amount of credit due to this film.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where I think 5 years earlier, like if this movie came out in 94, I think it flops because I think that would have been too much for people to wrestle with. Like this movie met the moment perfectly. You know what I mean? Like it came out exactly at the right time, because coming out now, it would seem like almost like quaint. You know what I mean? Like,
I think if it came out in 94, it'd be Johnny Mnemonic, which he did.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Let's make this better 5 years later.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the one I love. Like in the trailer, it's like this man has whatever, like years of information stored in him. It's like, it's 128 gigs. It's like, we all have that on our phones now. It's crazy that he was just like this invaluable asset because he had all this data. It's like, no, it's like everyone's phone has that. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Like my camera roll on my phone is 128 gigs. I think. Like it might be more. Just screenshots and multiple pictures of the same angle of different people. But
there's 6 pictures of my dog sleeping.
This is sort of stepping on something I want to talk about later. I mean, potentially. I don't know what your answer is going to be, Kayla, but I'm curious, what stood out to you from the actual film? I know you said you really enjoyed the making of scenes and everything, but
Mhm.
what stood out to you the most from this movie the first time you watched it? If you remember. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
That's okay. To be honest, I don't remember a lot of the first time I watched it. I
yeah.
really don't have much memory of it. I wish that I did. I don't know why I don't. Did I fall asleep? I don't think so, but maybe. But I don't have much memory of the first time that I watched it. But I have, I watched it yesterday and I have some memories from then.
Let's hear it.
Well, let's go with that then. I'm
What
just
stood
because
out to me?
yeah, for me, I mean, I know, I mean, I'm going to talk about it in my elevator pitch later, so I know, exactly what stood out to me. But I am just curious for someone that had some, knowledge and understanding and recognition of what was this movie was all about. Like, what stood out? I mean, it sounds like you still enjoyed the movie despite having it spoiled for you or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, going in, obviously, I've like heard a little bit about the Matrix my whole life.
Yeah.
I guess so. One thing I do remember from the first time that I watched it is I never knew about like the whole pod thing, like their
Mm.
bodies being in that pod. I remembered
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Um,
Yeah.
that weird little pod with their like wet, slick little hairless bodies, all covered in goo. That I do remember. With the
Yeah.
lightning strikes. That's a pretty striking like imagery.
hmm
The way they have that set up and the way that the quote unquote real world looks is bonkers. It's insane. It's so
Yeah.
creative.
I found that scene to be specifically terrifying this last time I watched it.
You were
I
scared.
always remember it. Yeah, it's like a
Hmm.
horrifying thing to think about. Imagine actually waking up and just those ports and everything. Like
Hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in the hospital, so I've had like different IVs and stuff like poked into me, and like it's just a very uncomfortable feeling. And to have it be to that level, and just the first time he reaches back and touches the back of his head where it
The head
plugs in, it
one's
just seemed
crazy. Yeah.
hmm
And
like
then
this
one
time
in like
watching
every
it. Yeah,
vertebrae, that's pretty insane. It's also
yeah,
it's crazy to me that this movie isn't more in conversations about body horror because I thought
totally.
that portion of body horror is like pretty insane and pretty intense and this doesn't really in my experience ever come up I don't think in or at least not often in body horror conversations.
Yeah, no, I've
Yeah, you're
never
totally right.
thought about it like that, but I like to envision it hopefully as like a warm goo. Something like that, like it's kind of cool actually. Like I really just want to like
That kind of seems
be
like
whatever that
relaxing.
is. Yeah, it's like one of those like floating
A
pod things,
yellow hot tub.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it's not that bad, but yeah, waking up in that would just be an absolute nightmare. But
But I don't know, like if you're also born into it because these people are like they're not born, they're like made, right?
mhm,
At
Right.
this point. They're grown on a farm, which
Yeah.
also kind of rips. Um,
it's pretty cool.
but if you're born that way, it's like a water birth. Like you
Mhm.
don't know that something's wrong when you wake up that way because you can breathe in it or something.
Yeah,
Although in the movie it doesn't seem like they can breathe in it, which why can they not?
yeah, it's a little weird. I had forgotten about that angle of it, like why they were farming people. I guess just the whole
Yeah.
essentially blotting out the sun and stuff.
It
It's
does
like
get kind of put into the wayside, but it is such an interesting story and approach to the story.
yeah, and I was surprised that I'd like forgotten about it because it doesn't really get. I don't know. It gets talked about, but not like it's not the main point.
They more
I guess,
focused on like the micro of it, of like they're computer
Yeah.
guys there's bad guys we got to fight,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they
It's like
lose kind of the macro,
we can
which is
teach
that
you
they're these
jujitsu.
giant ass robot things farming people.
Yeah, like that's the
Totally.
downside of this.
We have no sun anymore. When you think about this, like they want to wake everybody up, but then you're kind of like, why? Like to live in this world? Do you want
Mhm.
people to be cognizant of this world?
of everything that's going on. It's
Yeah.
Totally.
It was
I've had this
creepy.
discussion before with a friend of mine. He teaches philosophy at a community college
I'm sure
here in
people
Salt
have had
Lake.
these discussions over the last 20 years, but like I
Oh,
said,
for
I'm new
sure.
to the film,
Yeah,
so
no.
forgive my ass.
Well, no, it's
Carry on, your
it,
philosopher friend.
No, I told him straight up, I was like, I'm Cypher. Like, I want to be in the Matrix. Don't take me out into this bullshit.
Yeah.
This sucks out here. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm 100% fine. Like, because he shows this movie to his students for all these reasons we're talking about. You know, there's a lot of philosophical stuff you can talk about in here.
Sure.
And I especially this last viewing, I'm like, what are we even fighting for? Like, I don't know.
I guess they want people to not be enslaved, which I guess I understand. If they're given the choice to be in the Matrix or be out in lightning, terrible world.
Yeah.
I think it's the official name. Yeah.
Then maybe that's different than just being forced to be in the Matrix with no cognizance of it.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
I guess maybe that's like a goal, you know, to have the choice, freedom of choice, etc.
For sure.
Or pro-choice.
I think my choice would be the juicy steak and the woman in the red dress. Send me back.
You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious.
If I could choose, though, I would be Neo, because then not only are you aware that you're in the Matrix, but also you can do cool tricks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You can learn so much cool shit really
I want to be
fast.
able to do cool tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I want to, make me Prince. I want to learn how to play all the instruments so I can remake Purple Rain in the Matrix.
That is like the coolest thing, is that the little stick that goes in your brain and you can learn everything instantly.
Yeah.
Give me that. I love that.
Totally.
I want control over that computer. Give me that. Put the stick in. Let me download the stuff I want to know.
I do wonder what programs they have, though. There's probably got to be some crazy ones in there.
It seemed like he was just kind of like Googling whatever and then just downloading manuals into people's brains.
Yeah, when Trina's like, I need to learn how to fly this helicopter. He's like, all right, give me 30 seconds.
Learn how to fly the helicopter. He learned jujitsu. Learned some other type of fighting. Can't remember.
Yeah, a ton of martial arts.
I think he learned all of them, right? Like,
probably so.
Didn't they say at one point he was going 10 hours straight of just being downloaded information? What was that? Wasn't that in that comedy special that Stavros Halkias, or how do you say his name, Ben?
Oh, I don't know how to say his last name.
He had a funny bit about, like, when this happens, like Elon Musk wants to put chips in everyone's head and he studied it on monkeys or whatever. But he's like, it's going to come with the paywall. So you want to learn jujitsu, but you have to watch an ad first.
Exactly.
You try to access a memory and you have to watch an ad first. And that's exactly, unfortunately, how it would go.
Would anybody get a chip? That seems so hilarious to me. Just fucking, you're trying to think. You're trying to think about a memory and an ad starts playing. You're just like... You getting jacked off in 8th grade is sponsored by Spotify.
What would you guys download into your brains if you could download, let's say, a handful of things?
Ooh, right now I would download how to write a very specific programming language that I'm trying to learn so I could get a better job.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
I have that one locked and loaded. I spend all my free time studying, and I'm like, I wish I could just pop it in here.
Yeah.
I think I would want to honestly just learn how to drum like Danny Carey or John Bonham or something, like one of my favorite drummers. Like, teach me what they know. It's like I can do it, but not like they can do it. I think I'd want to be very proficient at that.
You drum now?
I
mean, I haven't in a while, but I can. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, he can.
What would yours be?
My the first thing that comes to my brain, because there are a lot of things that I would love to download into my brain. But the first thing that came to me would be languages. Like, I want to learn every language.
Yeah. Yeah. Right when you said that too, I was like, oh, for all the HGTV and Food Network I watch, I probably want to learn how to cook, just not have to look at a recipe.
I could really think of a lot of things I want to know more about.
Languages would be huge.
But languages is the first, when I think the first thing I would push, the first button, learn all the languages. I want to know all the languages. I want to know what people are saying. I want to be able to watch movies and fully. But sometimes I think, and this is kind of off topic, but I just brought it up, so now I want to say what I think. You ever watch a foreign film and you think maybe it's kind of better that I don't know what they're saying, because maybe then you can't tell if like the acting's kind of bad.
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about it from that perspective. I've thought about it in the sense that, like drumming, I used to be able to speak Portuguese as well. And I thought about it in the sense of like what you read in the subtitles versus what they actually
Never
say.
matches.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I get what they were trying to get across, but it's like, that's not the actual phrasing of it. So I think in that sense, it'd be really cool, like you said, for all the languages to like understand like what the actual dialogue is. We talked about like with the
on the one
trilogy.
hand, it would be cool. And you get to know like what the actual filmmaker like intended for you to hear, to listen to understand whatever. But then sometimes I think almost the majority of my favorite movies are all foreign films. And I wonder sometimes if it is like I'm getting something different out of it because maybe I can't tell if they're acting it weird or something,
Yeah.
See, that's so funny. We talked a lot about this when we watched a bunch of Miyazaki movies, and there were a few times that I wasn't sure that like a specific scene wouldn't land with me, and I was like, is this because this is like a mannerism or a way of acting or a way of being that is like culturally prominent in Japan, right? Like certain mannerisms of certain things that they were doing, or the way they were speaking, or the way they were moving. Like, is this like culturally specific to Japan and something that I'm missing in translation? You know what I mean? So like, I actually I would like to be able to understand it for that reason, like almost the opposite of what you're saying. I want to know is it bad acting, or is it just something that I don't totally understand? You know what I mean? But you do run the risk of like,
it would be a pros and cons thing. Yeah,
for sure. You might ruin your favorite movie. That'd be a bummer.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Yeah. It's just something I think about. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, that's Kayla.
Okay.
Our new segment.
What's the first language you're downloading though?
Well, I already partially know French. I took 5 years of French in school. And I think if I'm like fluent enough that I can understand a lot of it. I can't really speak it. Send a few sentences here or there, but I can, if I'm reading it, I understand most of what's happening, but just enough that it's like annoying. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand just enough that it like pisses me off. So like, I think if I could just get over the cliff with that, I would feel so good. If I could be fluent in French instead of just knowing enough that it kind of pisses me off.
That'd be awesome.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I love that.
Second would be Swedish. I think Swedish rocks.
Okay.
Also, most of my favorite, I have a couple fave filmmakers, two specifically that I'm thinking of that are Swedish, and I would love to watch their films and know what they're saying. Also, just I think the language is gorgeous.
That's very cool.
Well, I'm pulling for you. I hope that happens for you. I hope we can download.
Thanks. I can't wait to put a big old stick in the back of my head and learn some language.
Just gotta go for that paywall.
God knows I ain't gonna learn it the old-fashioned way. My learning days is over.
I can learn it in 30 seconds. I'll do it.
All right. Well, so this movie has a lot of great actors and I got a lot of really cool performances here and a lot of really cool characters. So I think it's prime for an Apollonia Award. I do want to kind of change it from the original conceit of this award in that we're going to open it up to, if you choose, you could choose Keanu Reeves as your favorite performance from this movie. Typically, we reserve this award for, the secondary characters, the supporting characters.
The unsung heroes.
Yes, as a way to shout them out. But this time we're going to open up to everyone because I think everyone's great. So Kayla, who would take your Apollonia here?
I have to go first again.
I'll go first.
No, Ben has to go first.
I went with Lawrence Fishburne. Again, I feel like you could pick anybody in this and it would work.
The actor or the character?
Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus is who I picked.
Okay.
I mean, Lawrence Fishburne is great as well, but I'll go with Morpheus here. But I think specifically, I guess I was phrasing as Lawrence Fishburne because as I talked about earlier, when I was watching this, I'm like, man, there's just so many ways this movie is dumb as hell. Like when you it could have been horrible, like it just could have been a real flop. And honestly, it was like the Morpheus character, and like he's bought in from the beginning here because like he has the craziest, he has to explain the Matrix, which sounds fucking nuts, you know, but like he has this conviction, he believes in all this stuff. And it's like, I believe it because of the way I'm being told this. I'm like, yeah, cool. I get it. Like, I'm with you, you know, that makes sense. And I just think it is such a weird role to take on, and like the responsibility, I guess, of explaining everything. Cause we as the audience are all Neo, you know what I mean? Like we're learning about it and everything, but like Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus has the like job of explaining everything to us so we get it.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
And I mean, I know it's all in the script and everything. I just think the character, the performance came across really well, where it's like you understood why his crew all like backed him. Like just his conviction was so strong. And I don't know, I thought it was really good. I really liked that performance quite a bit. But there's, you know, there's the alternate universe where people may have seen the Will Smith video, but it's like where Will Smith is Neo, Val Kilmer is Morpheus, and Sandra Bullock is Trinity. And it's just like, that's a whole different movie. And I think what we got was perfect. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with, those Morpheus.
Yeah. Morpheus could have been so bad because
they're really good.
I mean, he's really like, luckily for us as the viewers and for the people that made this movie, like he leans in so
Imagine
hard.
if it was Morbius.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, man.
Hello, Neo. Do you know who this is?
It's Dr. Michael Morbius at your service.
Like I, at the same time, want to see that edit.
Remember Morbius from The Matrix? Dr. Michael Morbius.
Dr. Michael Morbius, here to help you. Oh my God, Jared Leto. The Matrix.
I think conviction was a good way to put it, Ben. Like, you really believe it. Like, I feel like, yeah, this guy really could be like the captain of the ship in the or in the real, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like it could really be. He could really be Morpheus, right? And like the job of having to provide all the exposition and explain to everyone and also be cool and believable as fighter. Like when I look at Lawrence Fishburne, like no shade to Mr. Fishburne. You're a wonderful person, I'm sure. But like, he doesn't look like an athlete. You know what I mean? He doesn't look like a fighter.
Wow, drag his ass.
Yeah. I mean,
Lawrence,
look,
please
he would
like and
mop the floor
subscribe
with me for sure. But it's just like, you know, he doesn't look like an action figure, right? And so the fact that he can pull that off in a believable way is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, he's got to run the gamut between like the floor length leather duster with the weird clipping sunglasses, you know. But then at the same time, he's got to be believable in the dojo.
Can't we talk about the fashion in this film? Because
I mean, the fashion is something else, man.
It was off the
leather
chain.
pleather. It was in it.
Yes. I am a sucker for a funny glasses moment. I love a funny glasses moment. They're too small. Sign me up. I love it.
I watched them back to back, so I remember it was this Reloaded, but there is that scene where he just like pinches them back onto his like.
You hear the little.
Yeah, it's like, man. But I
People
mean, you make
being
it look cool.
too serious in a silly sunglasses. Yes, 100%, 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
Love it.
Shout out Lawrence for holding that down. I love that.
Somewhere so the glasses were made by a label called Blind with an E at the end, and the company's founder. I'm reading this off of IMDb's trivia page. He was going against like Ray-Ban and Arnett. They were trying to win the contract for this movie, and he won it. And he got himself a pretty sweet gig because they flew him out, and he was in Sydney, like on set, like making the sunglasses as they went. Like he was cranking them out like in Sydney.
Real-time inspiration.
Yeah.
He's saying he was cranking out on set.
He's cranking it on set.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
He was back in his own office. He had privacy.
The glasses look so cool.
But I think it's pretty rad because I just always assumed that, you know,
real
like
glasses pervert.
That's why he got into the biz, man. He's doing this thing.
Sorry, go on.
Despite his sexual improprieties, I'm happy that he won out this bid.
If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
We're not king shaming.
No, not at all. Do your thing.
We support.
We are pro.
Put on your magic sunglasses. No one can see you. Do your thing.
Yeah,
It's all
do
good.
whatever
Hell
you
yeah.
The fashion in this movie, like along the lines of talking about Morpheus and Lawrence Fishburne, like it could have not worked. Like it, like everything about this movie could have not worked.
Do you think this movie? What came first, Trench Coat Guys or this movie?
My memory is this movie, but I could be wrong there. I feel like, I mean, there were people who I remember wearing trench coats that I think would have worn them regardless. But I think this movie definitely like made it more okay to wear your trench coat. You know what I mean? Like people that were interested in maybe experimenting with fashion, maybe they were inspired a little bit more to put on the duster. Who knows?
Yeah, that's totally fair. It's a bummer that like the thing I associate most with that is like either The Matrix or Columbine, like when it comes to trench coats.
So here's what's funny. I just Googled which came first because that's also what I thought of. The Matrix came out 3 weeks before Columbine.
Ooh,
oh, wow.
Interesting. Maybe they fancy themselves Morpheus.
Dr. Michael Morbius.
Dr. Michael Morbius.
Damn Morbius again.
That's who. Yeah, my Apollonia goes to Dr. Michael Morbius.
Should we just all give our award to Michael Morbius?
Yeah. No, the fashion was cool. There's the one towards I guess it's maybe towards the middle, approaching the end. Obviously, this is a spoiler podcast, but the one when Cypher comes back and like kills them, you know. But their fashion is they're all there and they're all in like their black. And then I love that Switch is the only one that gets to be in like a white duster or whatever. Like it looked so cool, just like sticking out amongst everyone else. And yeah, I don't know. I think they had just one of the lines I remember the most from this movie is when Switch looks up. It's like, no, not like this. And then just like, it's over. I'm like, oh man, that would be fucking horrible. Like to know what's about to happen to you. I couldn't imagine.
If you have anything terribly important to say to Switch, I suggest you say it now.
Oh no, please don't.
Not like this. Not like this.
Well, I'll just jump into my Apollonia here. I chose Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. He was probably still my favorite character. I don't know. I just fucking love Agent Smith. Like, just the Terminator like demeanor, you know, he's like the T-1000, but in the Matrix. And I think it's awesome. It took me a long time to realize that Hugo Weaving was all these different people in movies that I had seen. You know what I mean? Like he's sort of a chameleon, sort of a shapeshifter.
Some guys are like that. Some actor guys.
Yeah.
Totally.
Are we gonna? We're gonna see him next round, right?
Yeah, a lot of
really? Okay, cool. I just remember with like weird long hair, I think.
Oh, you mean in the next round of movies, not the next Matrix?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think like when you see the other agents doing their agent dialogue, it just doesn't really work. But he actually does seem like a robot that learned how to be human, and to some degree, you know, like he just has that. I guess he tried to emulate broadcasters from the 1950s, and Lawrence Fishburne kept comparing him to Walter Cronkite.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now, Mr. Anderson. It seems that you've been living 2 lives.
So that was his inspiration, was that like classic non-regional diction. And I can see it, but there's just something so specific about the way he like kind of the way he just like when he says his S's, he has like a hard hissing sound to his S, and like all
which
his
sounds
words
like
just
a computer.
pop so specific. Totally. And I don't know. I'm glad that we got a lot more of him in Matrix Reloaded, but we'll talk about that when we talk about Matrix Reloaded. But I don't know.
Join
Agent
us next
Smith
week.
What's that?
Join us next week for
join us next week.
More.
But he's always been my favorite. I mean, there's a lot of really cool characters and a lot of fun stuff in here. But I don't know. Agent Smith takes it for me.
And fun fact, Hugo Weaving's daughter plays Keanu Reeves' daughter in Bill and Ted Face the Music. So there you go.
He's a fun
Wait,
fact.
which one?
Samara Weaving.
Wait, that's his daughter?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, right?
Well, I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm fairly positive. Yeah. There you go. Fun fact.
I love some nepotism.
No, she's good. This
She's
isn't
good case
nepotism.
of it, for
She
sure.
actually rips ass.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, I have kind of two. Well, I have an actor and a character, so I feel like they can both count.
Sure.
So for actor, I have picked Carrie-Anne Moss,
Yeah, she's
who plays
great.
Trinity.
Nice.
But just as an actor, I mean, she kicks ass nonstop for 30 years, and we don't talk about her enough. Okay, plus she's so
Yeah.
fucking iconic visually in this film.
Yeah.
She just rips. And then
Absolutely.
character-wise, I voted for the Oracle, the lady who plays
Oh,
the
that
Oracle.
was gonna be. That was my other pick. I was going between the two.
Yeah. I think that just the whole way they handled the Oracle and her scene, I think was awesome. It rocked. And it's just like earlier in the film, before that scene happens, when they're alluding to an Oracle or like going to see the Oracle and making such a big deal about, oh, we're going to the Oracle's house. I think what happens, nobody was picturing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's picturing we're going to like this like older Black woman's house who's going to be like doing some home cooking, making some cookies, like, and have like a, kind of like a motherly vibe to her. Like nobody is picturing that when they're saying we're going to the Oracle.
Yeah, you picture like someone bathed in white light and like larger than life, and looks timelessly old, like
some
that
kind
sort
of like really effervescent god creature.
Yeah.
And this woman, she has her own, she holds her own. She is a
fucking
gorgeous woman. But it just was really surprising, and I thought that the way they did that was really awesome, and that she did a great job with it too.
Yeah, that whole scene could be a spin-off, right? Like all those little kids in there, and like
Big Oracle's house.
Totally. Weekend at Big Oracle's house. All my damn spoons are bent.
I mean, yeah, it's got one of the best scenes I think in it, when the whole "don't worry about the vase," like what vase, and then she's like, what's really going to bake your noodles? Like, would you have done it if I hadn't said anything?
Yeah.
He's like, oh man, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, it was so cool.
Like, that's like one of the many iconic sort of lines or parts from this movie too, is the vase thing.
Yeah.
That's one you hear around, right?
Yeah, it's out
there.
there.
There are several from this movie.
Yeah,
it's made its imprint. Dr. Michael Morbius will do that.
You know what? Yeah, guys, I just watched it yesterday, and then today, somebody at my work brought up The Matrix randomly, and I saw a Matrix meme, and I go, you know what? 20 whatever years later, this thing is still kicking. People are talking about it. Yeah. What the hell?
I think they would define that as a glitch in the Matrix. That seems a little deja vu. So watch out. Agent Smith coming in hot.
Glitches on my end.
Well, so given how ubiquitous this movie is and how you just, intimated, is if you had to talk someone into watching this movie, let's just say 2 years ago, someone's talking you into watching this movie, Kayla. What is this? And you could pick one scene from the movie. We're gonna do an elevator pitch here.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You're gonna pick one scene from the movie or a moment, whatever. What would you choose to show someone? And I guess I'll start this one since I haven't started any of these prompts yet. I love to pick scenes that aren't spoilery. Like, there's a lot of really cool scenes that you could show someone and they would, you've never seen quite anything like it, and you'd be inclined to watch the movie. But I'm going to go with when Morpheus guides Neo out of his cubicle, because you don't get any of the entering the Matrix stuff. There's no picking up a phone and being sucked into the Matrix. There's nothing really spoilery about it, but it's definitely a like, what the fuck is happening moment. And it lets you know that like there is a group of people out there that have a level of control and oversight that can, help him do this. And the agents seem terrifying. Neo seems genuinely, scared and confused. And I think it's a perfect primer to like what you're going to get out of this movie. And it's really tense. Like every time I watch it, still, I'm like, fuck, Is he gonna make it? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so
And you get Keanu's cute little waddle down at the end of the aisle, and he's like, "Gotta
Yeah.
go to the office." I always love his little waddle in there. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
adorable.
Or
I like
ducking
that a lot.
super low. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And those phones too, like so many movies. And I mean, we talked about it, like there is dated stuff here, but like I think one thing they did well was creating a phone that like didn't exist, so you couldn't necessarily stamp it, you know, because it had like the whatever kind of curved Nokia
Yeah.
thing, and like the bottom part dropped out, and it's like there's similar things, but I loved those phones, seeing those in there. I'm like, yeah, because you know this is dated, but at the same time, there's no I can't be like, oh yeah, I remember when I had that phone. It's like, oh, it's just like it's kind of timeless, even though you know this is definitely like a late '90s thing, but. I like that a lot. I mean, I that scene gets me a lot. 'Cause I'm like, I don't know if I'd go out on that ledge. Like you, Tyler, are very aware of my fear of heights and falling. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna go see where these guys are taking me. Like, there's no way I'm going out on this ledge here. Sorry.
Well, that's
man.
what
like,
he did too. He thought about the ledge for a moment.
I mean, he got out there. He went a lot further than I would. I don't even know if I would open the window.
Yeah, I was
you know?
gonna say Ben wouldn't even open the window for sure.
I probably
That's the
wouldn't
thing, is,
either.
like,
No,
Yeah.
too
Do
scary.
buildings allow windows to open like that anymore? Like it feels like it's not.
Probably not.
You can't do that. Or there's like opens. It's like the hotels, you know, it's like you get like 2 inches, but we're not going to just let anybody jump out here.
One thing I like about this movie, when you talk about the cell phone and the technology, I like that the technology they use on the ship and everything seems so like antiquated, even for the time that they're in. Like it seems like even they know they're using equipment that looks old and feels old.
Yeah.
Like we're living in a
Well,
world
because
where
they've
like
kind of scrapped it together.
right.
They didn't
that's
like go
true.
to Best Buy and get a new computer for their ship. They junkyarded it together out of stuff they
Totally.
found, right?
Yeah.
And I think that works really well for the movie because, like, you know, watching Star Wars or a lot of other stuff, like older sci-fi movies where, like, their technology is supposed to be something we can't even comprehend and futuristic, but just unfortunately doesn't seem that way given what we have today. But with The Matrix, it works because of, you know, everything you just said, Kayla.
I do like the idea that they have a Best Buy though, where there's like, hey,
I know, I was kind of thinking
my
about it
machine
after
where I put in
said
the
it.
disc and teach them skills in 30 seconds really crapped out on me, so I need to get a new one.
Everyone knows that the Zion Best Buy has terrible service.
Horrible service. Yeah. Everyone's just
They
fucking
probably
in the
still had
back. and
Circuit
it's like,
Cities back then.
yeah, exactly. It's all scrapped from the Circuit City closings.
Yeah.
I love that.
The Circuit City closing sale. They got the fucking discount.
This is what
man.
we're doing. That's what the Matrix is made with.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for mine, it's the dojo fight. I mean, I guess to go back to, you know, Morpheus, I that's the scene that I love, obviously, is the iconic line for me that I love the most is the I know Kung Fu.
I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
Show me. Like, I love that sequence right there when he's like learning it all and sweating, all that kind of shit. But then we get into the dojo and they do such a good job in this movie of you're never curious, I guess, if you're in the Matrix or if you're in the real world, because they very like it's so clean and crisp. Yeah. And just like that dojo fight, I love how bright it is and just all the cool, I don't know, everything that he learns in there, you know, it's like, do you think that's air you're breathing? It's like, it's a good way to do this exposition of like, you can control your body. You can control how long you jump up in the air and all that kind of stuff. It was a great, you know, it's almost like a montage in a fight. You know, it's like we're seeing him learn all these things at once. And just the choreography is cool. Like I love that whole sequence. So that's what I would show somebody, just from Keanu sitting in the chair, you know, and Tank just like, oh, I'm not going to do this like beginner bullshit. Like, let's get into the good stuff, you know, all the way through the dojo fight. I love that sequence.
Yeah.
It's cool that even though they kind of ripped off like the holodeck from Star Trek, that they still kind of put a spin on it, because you can't control like physics in the holodeck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like a direct rip, even though it's like a big thing that's like iconic in culture.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that thing, how they bring that up too when he comes out, and, you know, he's like bleeding. You know, it's like, well, yeah, that's just your mind's going to do that to you, and giving us the stakes that like you can die in the Matrix and you will die in real life. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. It's not just like live, die, repeat, or, you know, Ready Player One or something where you just start over. It's just, this is it. So give you some stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you said that you know, it's very clearly its own specific world, it's something that I noticed, but I didn't I didn't realize exactly what they were doing. I read that everything that we see in the Matrix has that green tint. Because I just in my head, I think the whole movie has that green tint, but apparently everything that's in the real world is tinted blue. Everything that's in the Matrix is tinted green, and then that scene specifically they tinted yellow, and like I subconsciously recognized all that, but as soon as I read that, it's like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, and that was their way of letting you know, like, okay, now you're in the Matrix, now you're in the real world, and now you're in the.
And that was like a weird, like extension of the Matrix, I guess, because those were all the training things that I think Mouse had made, right? Because that's like, the next day it was like, do you see the lady in the red dress? Like, oh shit, here we go. You know, it's just like I can set up an arrangement, you know, if you want to meet her. So it's like that is the Matrix, but it's also like a very contained inside the Matrix thing, which like this is just like a practice area where we get to learn all this kind of stuff. So very clean though, very cool looking.
For sure.
So
Kayla,
mine.
what would you go here?
Well, first I thought I should mention just like, and maybe I already have, I guess, kind of, but the thing that got me to watch The Matrix that somebody else showed me first was that dojo behind the scenes making of.
Oh, cool.
Which isn't technically part of the movie, but just watching that, I was like, okay, I got to see the movie now.
Yeah.
So I think that would be, you know, something you could show someone to get them to watch this movie that wouldn't necessarily spoil because it's just making of. And then it's hard to say beyond that because my favorite part of the movie is just the ending. Like the whole ending is the coolest thing ever. But you can't just show somebody the ending and be like, then watch whatever else happens.
But how did we get there?
So I think a nice teaser trailer. There's one, it's so quick, but I think it's so funny. Towards the beginning, before he's realized he's woken up and whatever, Keanu, he wakes up on the floor, you remember, and there's like typing happening on the computer. The slowly types out on the computer, the Matrix has, like, so slow, the Matrix has you.
That's how I type. ...
And then he just it turns to him and he just goes, what the hell? And then it cuts. And it's like
I'm just gonna play people this clip whenever I talk about the Matrix. Like, no,
like if I could just play people this like 3 seconds of the film.
Yeah,
like,
it's perfect.
That's perfect, incredible. You know what you need to know. Get in there.
Totally.
If you're not hooked by this, I don't know what else you need. This is it.
Like when I wake up from the floor and see my computer typing at 7 words per minute, the Matrix has you ...
Yeah.
I would just go, what the hell?
Just like that.
And it's like over. It like goes somewhere.
That's
else.
it. Yeah.
What the hell?
I love the earlier one, like before the people come to pick up the disc or whatever, and he's at the door. He's like, you ever have that feeling where you don't know if you're awake or asleep? It's like, yeah, man, it's called mescaline. It's like, like, okay, cool. Like, it's so good.
Hell yeah.
So you follow that man into the night, the guy that with the mescaline references. Go wherever he's going.
Yeah.
I like your scene, Kayla, because it's representative to me of what's so fun about this movie is, especially the first time you see it, you're just playing catch up the whole time. Like, the Matrix has you, and you know the movie's called The Matrix, but like, what the fuck is the Matrix, and what are they talking about, and where are we going? Who's the Oracle? What is Morpheus? What is this? What is that? What is Zion? You know, like, just the whole time you're just playing catch up, and it makes it so fun. And I still think it even holds up. Like, we were talking about something earlier. Oh, you were talking about how they barely mention like why the sun is gone. It's just kind of like in passing they talk about it. And every time I watch this movie, I mean, I've seen it probably, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen times now, but every time it still feels not fresh and new, but you're always a little bit surprised by something. You know what I mean? There's like stuff that you forgot, and it's still fun. It's still a good ride. And I think your scene specifically, Kayla, is a perfect example of like the feeling of that's kind of what it would feel like to watch this movie for the first time. And that's what it did feel like, is like, what the hell is going on? You know, like, what is like the Matrix does have me. I'm hooked. Let's get through this. Let's figure this out.
Will you give us your perfect Keanu one more time?
What the hell?
Spot on. I closed my eyes. I was like, wait, I think she's playing the movie. Like,
It's so incredible.
So we talked about Carrie-Anne Moss a little bit, and it's going to lead into our Rushmore.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
Because I want to talk about best opening sequences, because there was so much writing on this opening sequence for this movie. And it's to me, it's one of the best opening sequences that I've ever seen. Like this, to be honest, like this might be the actual answer for the elevator pitch, but I want people to be able to experience this like in the way that you would experience just watching the movie. And Carrie-Anne Moss knocks this out of the fucking park. She is so cool. She's so badass. Like you 100% believe that she is this like superhero figure. You know what I mean? And like, it's the
I think the
first time
trivia
we
said
get
that she did all of her shit, right? Like she did all of her stunts on that opening sequence.
I think so, yeah.
Which is nuts.
Hell yeah.
And it's like we get a little bit like, you know, we get the floating crane kick and the jump across the alleyway into the window, and it's like, what? Like,
Sandra Bullock could never.
Sandra Bullock would never. Love you, Sandy. And then the phone booth thing with the truck running into the phone booth. I'll never forget in the theaters the first time I saw that. Like, what the fuck? Where did she go? How did she escape? How did she live? And it was just iconic to me. And so I wanted to talk about best opening sequences in a movie. So we're gonna pick 4 each to fill up our Rushmore. I'm gonna make Ben go first this time. And our 4 favorite opening sequences of all time.
All right. Well, number 1, I mean, this is a very like bro-y whatever answer, but it's The Dark Knight, like the whole bank robbery sequence. Like whenever I throw this movie on, it's just, I will definitely just sit and watch this every single time. Also because every time I'm trying to remember which glass pane it is that breaks open, and I was like, oh, I think it's that one. You know, it's like I was like off by 2. Like, ah, shit. All right, next time. But it's a great sequence. Again, like we get to a lot of character development in like the first 8 minutes, you know, it's just like, oh, he's gotten all these people to take each other out, you know, until it's just him and one more at the end. Like it's all cool, all that kind of stuff. You know, he claims to be a agent of chaos, quote unquote, but it's like, he's very detailed. He has a lot of like good plans. You know, everything is thought out. So great introduction to the Joker. So Dark Knight, Scream, which I think is just a classic. I mean, it's the first movie that really just kind of like pulled the rug out from people like that with who they were marketing, you know, as the star of the movie. And then 10 minutes in, like, that's it. You know what I mean? Which is like kind of crazy that they did that.
Do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
You know, a similar one is to be like Psycho, but even then, they lasted for like half the movie. So that intro for Scream, though, talking again about like quotable lines here, you know, like what's your favorite scary movie, all that kind of stuff, that all comes like all that stuff is fantastic. Honestly, there's a few options, and I'm feel like we'll see at least one of the other ones, but Tarantino, you know, for his problems, like he knows how to write a good opening scene. And I love Pulp Fiction. Tyler, you're probably going to talk about one, but I went with Reservoir Dogs because that's just like the way it was shot, like spinning around the table, like just the actual camera work of it, I think is very cool. And as I've talked about on here, I was told very specifically for my senior project that nobody can write sitting at a diner, make it interesting, you know, like no one else is Tarantino. And so I was like, cool, we're going to do that. And while it was no Reservoir Dogs by any means, like it was cool to see the challenge of a one location sitting down, not doing anything. And I think Reservoir Dogs knocks it out of the park.
Wait, did you say you have a teacher who said that nobody else could make it interesting?
Yeah, we were told very specifically, do not, because we had to do a short that was like, what was it, like 10 minutes? I don't know, but it's just.
Yeah, it was one, like a 10-minute scene.
Yeah, the instructions were very clear that it cannot be people just sitting at a table talking. Like you need to have something happening.
So guess what Ben wrote?
And so, but the place it takes place all in a diner at the table, you know. So that's all we did. My action shot was following.
I think that kind of sucks.
Oh yeah, 100%. I kind of got their point that, you know, a lot of people fancy themselves a great director, but I just kind of wanted more of the challenge of why they said it's, you know, hard to keep people's attention. So, so Reservoir Dogs would take my 3rd spot. And then my last one actually is from maybe one of the lesser to other people, Mission Impossible movies, but Mission Impossible 3, which remains, one of my absolute favorites. We get just peak bad guy Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it just like really kicks you off. Like it's one of those we talked about.
Mission Impossible 3?
Yeah. And, we just talked about like, why would you show someone the ending? Be like, that's how we got here. But that's what this movie does. Like we start at the end and, Cruise is like in the chair and he has to give up the information or he's going to kill Carrie Russell. That's just the intro that we're given. And then the countdown, it's just like, oh shit. And again, like I love Philip Seymour Hoffman. He's one of those, like we talked about, like if he's in a movie, I want to see it. And I still maintain that he's like one of the best villains that we've ever had. And just like
one of the best actors we've ever had.
Best actors
Period.
Of all time.
Totally.
Of all time. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would,
if not the best. Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I am
honestly,
due
like
for a rewatch on the Mission Impossibles.
It's awesome. Well, our buddy
I haven't
Ethan,
seen most of them.
Well, 3s I highly recommend, but our buddy Ethan's watching all of them to get ready for next year. So maybe we'll do a rewatch too. We can talk about them. But Mission Impossible 3, great intro. Start at the end and find out how we got there. And Philip Seymour Hoffman forever. So those would be my 4: Dark Knight, Scream, Reservoir Dogs, and Mission Impossible 3.
4.
Rabbit's in Paris. You want to know where in Paris? Then let her go, because you will
It's
never.
not in Paris. 5.
I can get it for you. But you kill her, you do this. You get nothing. Are you listening to me?
Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Kayla, did you have a chance to come up with some answers here?
I did.
Do you want to tell us?
No.
You're like, no, fuck you guys.
I'm shy. I found this kind of hard, to be honest, but I did come up with some things. But I'm suddenly was like, have I ever seen a movie? I don't know. Secondly, have I ever seen a movie that has like an opening that's I watch a lot of slow burns, or like non-linear or like weird stuff. Sorry, I'm sounding like such an asshole, but
no, totally. I have famously poor recall, so like I always have to look at lists and like I'm like, oh yeah, I have seen that movie, so I get it. I totally get it.
So, but I did think of a few. So, actually, spinning off of one of yours a little bit, Scream 4, I picked out of the Scream sequence. Scream 4 has like a great, not to spoil, but it has like a fake out on fake out on fake out on fake out beginning. That was
Julie
really
Taylor
fun.
From Friday Night Lights.
There are all kinds of celebs in there for like 2 seconds.
So good.
Incredible. Did you have thoughts, Tyler?
I've never seen Scream 4. I'm not a big like horror movie person, so
I'm not really either, to be honest.
Okay. So I shied away from it. So
I do go for the screams. I love the screams. I'm not huge on horror in general, but Scream is like the Scream series. It's one that hit me when I was a kid, and it's kind of stuck with me. Also, Queer Awakening, Nev Campbell. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. You know what I'm saying? So
Totally.
we stick with anything she's doing.
Yep.
So Scream 4 actually is my favorite in the series. I've gotten a little bit dragged for that, but
I like it. That's all.
It's my favorite Scream. Okay, so Scream 4 was one. Another one, Swiss Army Man. Have y'all seen?
Oh, I still need to see that. Very high on my list.
Well, you have to see Swiss Army Man. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
But it's Daniel Radcliffe. Well, first of all, it's the other guy. What's his name?
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano on the beach trying to kill himself, and then finds this dead corpse of Daniel Radcliffe also on the beach, who farts. It's funny. Ha ha ha. We no longer are suicidal. This is amazing.
Yep.
This is amazing content. Swiss Army Man.
I love it.
Then I have 2 kind of deep cuts, and I have a bonus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one, a French film, it's sort of recent, maybe from last year, sort of still coming out, called Mother Schmuckers. It's a comedy. It's very,
killer name.
Yeah. Well, it's a French translation. I forget what the French like direct translation is, but anyway, Mother Schmuckers is the English version of the title. The beginning, kind of nasty. They're like frying up a turd. But it's it's one of these movies. I call them a chaos movie where like something like everything that's happening is chaotic and every next thing that happens just heightens the chaos more and they can't get out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Seen
totally.
movies along these lines.
Yeah.
But it's also a comedy. So this one, it's very funny. But it's like offbeat comedy. It's if you're normal, you might not like it.
Well, I looked it up because I mean, this would be another good one if you were able to speak French and you could tell us exactly, what it meant. I guess it translates in Google Translate anyway to son of a redneck. Like, okay, cool.
Whoa. Okay, I was looking up what is the French title?
FILS, Field de Plouc, PLOUC. I don't know. But Google Translate puts it down as son of a redneck.
That's probably right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I like Mother
we'll roll with
Schmuckers,
that.
though.
well, that's like boys of something. So,
Yeah.
just enough to make it annoying.
Yep,
What
just
is
enough.
Anyway, so Mother Schmuckers, it's a great film. I recommend. It's only like 70 minutes too.
Yes.
And then last on my feature films was Buzzard. Have y'all seen Buzzard? No, you haven't. We talked about Joel Petrakis on my last episode.
Petrakis, yeah.
It's a Joel Petrakis film. It is kind of like a slow scene, but it kind of twists at the end, where the main character is like performing a scheme, and it's great. And then there's heavy metal, hell yeah, punk rock.
It can be seen on the Criterion channel, right? Aren't they
they're on Criterion right now.
On there?
They're probably on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Buzzard and Relaxer were both released on a lot of things, so they might still be up on other things too, but they are on Criterion right now. The whole Joel Petrakis collection is on. And then I had a half C, so like maybe my Mount Rushmore has like an extra ear or something.
I like it.
A short film that I think has a really incredible opening, which is called Place, directed and written by Jason Gudatz. Just has an amazing opening. I don't even want to, it's kind of a twist. So I think you should just watch the short. I don't want to like reveal what happens. It's only like 11 minutes total. So,
Nice. I like that.
but it's one of my favorite shorts and it has a really sick opening. So Place by Jason Gudatz. That's my Mount Rushmore
Love it.
of what I managed to think of.
We were able to put together.
I'm sure there are
You
other
came up
films
with some
like
great
really
stuff.
sick. I was sweating, absolutely sweating on the toilet with diarrhea, trying to think of 4 films that have cool
That's what we go
openings.
for. That's what we want. We want our
Have
guests
I
to
ever seen a
struggle.
movie? I don't know.
We want to make this hard on people. So we're
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad that it worked out. Well, I mentioned that I feel like the opening of The Matrix is like the best opening sequence of all time, or one of. So it's got to be on my list. I don't know what else. We talked about it a bunch. My pick for a Tarantino movie here is Inglourious Bastards. Speaking French, some beautiful French in that scene. And
I don't really remember the beginning of that movie.
It's when the Hans Landa, Christopher Waltz shows up to a farm in France, and he's interrogating them about if they're hiding any Jews or not.
And they're all like underneath the table where they're talking like in the basement. So they're listening to it all.
They have this like 20-minute, I don't know if it's 20 minutes. It's a long conversation.
Yeah.
And Christoph Waltz is just sort of, he's interrogating this farmer, and the farmer thinks he's doing a good job of hiding, but it's basically, it's Christoph Waltz is like a cat playing with its food in this scene.
Yeah.
He's just fucking with the farmer, and it's just so good. It's the first time I saw Christoph Waltz in a movie, and
I don't remember any of this.
Well, check it out because they
Sorry.
speak some beauul French.
I wish I could have more things to add during you telling me what happens, but I really don't remember the movie that much. Although weirdly enough, I own it on DVD. Can you believe that?
You got plans now.
I can believe it. But do you have it on Blu-ray?
No, I
of
bought it
DVD is
before
it?
Blu-ray. Before I had Blu-ray
Nice.
technology.
Well, pop it on. The first 10 minutes or so are fantastic.
Can I tell you a crazy story about Inglourious Bastards?
Please
There's
do.
a band called Dr. Manhattan who was based out of Chicago. They're kind of broken up now. But they stayed at my house one time. They stayed at my house many times, but this one time they stayed at my house. And I woke up in the morning at like 8:30, which is pretty early for like band waking up.
Yeah.
Totally.
I heard noising going on. So I came downstairs to where they were staying in my living room. And on the record player, they had Landslide, Fleetwood Mac playing, but like in the slowed down. They like hit the other, when on the record players you can hit the button and it makes it either go like
So
really
playing
fast,
like a
really slow.
45 or whatever.
They're going real slow. And then on TV, they had the special feature from Inglourious Bastards DVD. There's like only kills. There's like a mega shot of only kills.
Nice. It's a solid combo.
So it's just like,
it's like Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon.
They're sitting like cross-legged on the floor, just like totally transfixed on the TV while this song plays so slow on the record player, and on TV is just kill after kill after kill, like person getting shot, just like dying. That's on awesome. TV. Like, what an insane way to wake up in the morning.
That is a way to spend your morning, for sure.
It's a solid morning.
I'll never forget that. That was like years ago now, but I'm like, I'll never forget that time.
How could you?
It's
I'll
the
never
craziest
forget
thing
that.
to walk in on. Yeah.
Now I kind of want to try it too. See what that's like.
See how it hits.
All right, but rounding out
have a
my
single
list
beer
here,
and put on Landslide backwards.
just one beer.
You get 3 beers if you're gonna do Inglourious Bastards.
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. The next one I thought of was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Ben, have you seen this yet?
I don't think so.
But you've seen the sequence, right? It's like the iconic Indy running through the temple, and there's like the boulder rolling after him, and
I've seen like, isn't that like the switching of the idol with like the weighted bag?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that. So
Is this Indiana Jones?
Yeah, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He breaks into the temple and switches the idol with a bag of sand and sets off all the booby traps, and he has to run out of there. And I don't know, it's phenomenal stuff. It's so much fun. I really dig the Indiana Jones series, especially. All of them are great. Ben, you really need to get on this
next summer. More trilogies.
All right, the next trilogy's around. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then another one that's like iconic for a lot of different reasons, not because of how action packed it is or whatever, but Office Space. The opening to Office Space, sitting in traffic, that whole thing. Michael Bolton rapping and locking his door when the homeless guy comes by and stopping singing his rap song, and the shuffle, the traffic shuffle. I don't know. It's just always been in my head. It's such a fun way to open up that movie. It's like, that shouldn't be fun, right? Like that scene that we're watching shouldn't be fun. It should be triggering, but it's just like you can relate to it so hard, and it's just, I don't know, it's so perfect and so funny. I love that movie. I just watched it the other day.
That movie has the song that's like bounce bounce right? You know what I'm talking about?
And Ferris Bueller.
Bump bump.
Does Office Space have that?
I don't know if it does, but I love it.
I'm pretty sure it's in the credits.
I think if you sing more of it, I'll remember.
Yeah, wait, what? How does it go again?
Somebody has to know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know 100%.
It's like not really a song. Right. I mean, it is, but like that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah.
But one time I asked somebody, I met somebody off of the internet, and I asked them like what type of music they like, and they're like, I don't know, I don't really listen to music. Everybody listens to me. You can't say I don't listen to music. What? So I was like, tell me just any song that you like. What's your favorite song? And that's the song they said. And it's literally just like a 5-minute song.
So
it's
like,
just like,
oh, so you don't listen to music. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What an insane answer.
Yeah. Like, all right, well, if they're really going to press me on this, I'm going to tell them the worst song I can think of right now. Here's my favorite song, right? Keep fucking asking.
There were so many crazy things that happened. I just thought that was insane, but that's my Office Space story.
So there's like there were so many movies that I thought of. I didn't have nearly as much trouble as Kayla did coming up with things here. Ben, I
You
noticed
also
you
thought
had
of the idea. You thought
I
of
sure
the
did.
Rushmore.
I had a leg up
I
on you.
found
That's
out
true.
about the Rushmore, let's say,
Yeah.
30 minutes before the podcast in the middle of having diarrhea.
And I will say, you handled yourself with a plum. You handled it really well. You really carried through. We're very proud of you. But yeah, I just wanted to mention some honorable mentions here. I love the opening of The Big Lebowski. I don't know, like,
you have 2 full Rushmores.
I sure do. I sure do.
Okay.
I also had
even.
The Dark Knight on there. The Social Network has a really fun opening, I think. Like, that dialogue and everything there is really fun. And Goodfellas is like probably, I don't know, that's a really fun way. And it almost made my list. I took it off in favor of Office Space for something a little bit different. And Up, like that heartbreaking opening to Up. I didn't want to put it on there because it is so sad, but I feel like we have to mention it because it's so effective.
Yeah, without a doubt.
What did you have on there for honorable mentions, Ben?
I mean, Godfather, just a whole sequence is pretty cool with the, you come to me on my daughter's day of my daughter's wedding, whatever. Like that whole thing is good. Jaws, where we don't see the shark, but we get our first victim. And then like, it's not necessarily like a great scene, but the intro to Beaches, which we covered, really, I feel like hooks you in because it's a lot of like, we're playing catch up as to why this person who just booked a gig at the Hollywood Bowl is now canceling it, getting in their car and driving away. It's like, wait, what's happening? So not necessarily like visually amazing, like Saving Private Ryan or something like that, but just it was one of those that, like, if you're not hooked in after that opening sequence, like maybe the movie's not for you. And then, just again, to round out one more Tarantino, that Pulp Fiction Honey Bunny, stick up is pretty solid, especially with the kick into Dick Dale right after that.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
I tell you, with regards to Beaches, that song, the Under the Boardwalk that she's singing during that scene, that pops up in my head all the time. I find myself just walking around singing specifically that version. Like, that's what I'm hearing in my head as I'm singing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm blown away by how much that stuck with me. Really liked that movie. It was fun.
Nice.
Well, shoot, y'all. I think that's going to do it for this episode. I think we've covered everything that we need to cover there, and it's getting late. I can tell Kayla needs to get to bed.
I'm doing okay.
No, I'm just
like
kidding.
We didn't talk about. You didn't ask what did we not mention?
Oh, what did we not mention?
We didn't mention this movie comes up a lot in trans conversations.
Totally.
People saying that this is a trans allegory because famously the 2 directors later came out as trans. And I think that just has to be mentioned, especially technically, I don't know when this comes out, but at this moment, it is still Pride Month. And, support trans women, etc. #.
100%.
But I mean, there are a couple like obvious ways that this is sort of referential to transness, but I don't know if I would see personally any like overarching trans storyline. But there is like Neo struggling with his name in the movie. Like the Agent Smith always tries to call him Mr. whatever he calls him, and he has to assert his name. And then the whole red pill thing, which like estrogen is literally a red pill. Other than that, are there other asking 2 men?
I'm actually glad you asked this, because I've always heard this, and it's something that I want to recognize, and I definitely want to be an advocate for and a supporter of. But watching it, I was like, I honestly I can't see it. Maybe I'm too obtuse and too dumb to recognize it. But it's like I mean, other than like you said, obviously the director's famously transitioned, but there are a lot of questions of reality and identity, like you said. And I picked up on those things, but I'm just I wasn't totally sure, to be honest, watching this again, like how it had anything to do. It wasn't as overtly addressing these things as it's made out to be, I feel like.
I guess there was also a character who was supposed to be the lady who had the short blonde hair.
Yeah,
I don't remember what her name was.
Switch, yeah.
But that character was like supposed to be, I don't remember which way it went. It was supposed to be like a woman in the real world and a man in the Matrix, or the other way around. I can't remember. But I don't think that's how it actually happened in the film. But I think that's how it was like supposed to be. But I could see like,
I think they talked about that being like the trans metaphor for them. And I think Lily had talked about that they were, for them, like writing from like a closeted perspective. So like they were looking into
they were still
that.
figuring it out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
but it would be interesting to explore more, like,
For
because
sure.
when they are in the Matrix, they say something, and I can't remember the exact phrasing, but like the way they look is like how they want to see themselves, or something like that, something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's like a projection of how you see yourself or something.
Yeah. And like Neo has like different hair, and his name's different, and whatever, when he's in the Matrix versus when he's in real world, because that's how he wants to present.
Yeah.
We didn't even have that kind of language even back then, really, like how you want to present physically, like or gender wise. But I just, I don't know. It had to be acknowledged. We couldn't go through this whole episode and not talk about transness.
Yeah, I'm glad you did bring that up. I wanted to talk about it, but we got to the end and I had forgotten that we didn't cover it. So I'm glad you did mention it. And I will say, having seen the second one, the second one's definitely getting more into, it's a way more like overtly sexual movie. You know what I mean? So I can see where it's starting to touch on things that the first movie didn't touch on. But even still, I was like, I wish I could see more why, outside of the directors and, what they ended up doing later on in their lives. Like, I don't know. I wish I could see more why it was such an, like, spoken in such a way that it's like an iconic, LGBTQ plus movie. I mean, I hate to say it, but I just didn't really see it. But it's also not my place to say, right? Like, if that's what they see in it, that's great, and I love it for that. But I guess I just maybe I need to have my mind freed a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, because I'm trans, non-binary, and pretty cultured in transness and queerness in general. And I still would also say that I don't personally get a ton. I can see where, if you're looking for it, you could see a couple hints here and there, but like I said, an overarching trans narrative I don't really get from this, or even that much of queer vibes, besides having hot people in it. Queer people famously hot. Sorry.
Have you seen
the newest one? No, I haven't seen any of the. Like I said, I saw the second one. I think I don't remember a single thing about it. I never saw any other ones, so I don't know anything beyond this one. And like I said, I've only seen this one recently, so I haven't had 20 years to stew on it either. But I think like the directors themselves have made statements saying that certain things were supposed to be alluding to some aspect of transness. But I do believe, just personally, my reading is that a lot of the trans meaning that has been put into this film has been retrospectively put on there, knowing what we know now.
Gotcha.
That would just be my reading of it. I don't know. Come at me.
Totally. Well, I will
Fight
say,
me
like,
online,
the
etc.
newest one that they just came out with, that does have Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves in it, and was directed by the Wachowskis. Like, it does talk a little bit more overtly about all this kind of stuff, and that was a lot of stuff that I'd read about it was people misunderstanding that that's like the point of this movie wasn't to further the story of the Matrix. It was to like address transgendered issues and those sorts of things. So it's worth it. I don't know, it's worth checking out, I think, or at least reading about, maybe, or watching a making of video.
For sure. That's
I don't know if I'll watch the other Matrices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame
maybe
you. They're,
one day.
You know, yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I'm glad they exist, though. They're a lot of fun.
So I have another thing that we didn't talk about. When Neo dies, for the love story, what do we even feel about the love story? I don't know, because I feel like it's a little forced.
Yeah,
But
not a fan,
secondly,
to be honest.
this chick kisses a dead ass corpse, and we're not talking about it. And I feel like people aren't talking about enough how this guy is dead in heaven, gone from his body, released, and she's like, "Let me kiss his dead corpse lips."
Let me get in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, very much the.
Not the kink shame again, but
No.
I think it's a little twisted and people aren't talking about it.
If you like weird sunglasses or dead people, that's totally your thing. Yeah, no, it's a bummer of like the love is the answer storyline, like the way to wrap things up.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. I
Love
guess.
brings him back to life. Are you kidding me with
But even then, it's like, is it really because Trinity was told that they, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was she like hoping Neo was the one, and that's why she was like forcing her feelings? Maybe, I don't know, from what she had heard from the Oracle. So, yeah,
and like they never seem in love. They're not. They've never been on a date. They've barely hung out.
Yeah.
Even the times when they are together, they're not really talking to each other. She doesn't know anything about him still. He doesn't know anything about her. She's a mystery. She's quiet even.
Yeah, maybe
barely
she likes
speaks.
that Ferris Bueller song. Who knows? Maybe that's her favorite song. That's her thing. It's like, okay, I can't. I'm out.
What if she's fucked up? She's clearly fucked up. She's going around kissing dead corpses.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know that that's her kink. So like, I mean, I feel like the love story was forced, and I don't appreciate a forced love story, unfortunately.
I've just never been a huge fan of that part of the movie, but it wasn't
Yeah.
enough to like ruin it for me. But it is kind of like, I mean, I guess
go,
that's how
"Aw,
you
man."
do. I guess that's how you do a movie. I don't know. You got to have a love interest. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the studio forced it on him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just trying to make it more palatable for normal people.
Yeah.
Those weirdos.
Damn normies.
And then I just want to say that the ending is so badass. I literally love the ending.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Everything that happens after he comes back to life, that's all so badass.
Yeah.
Almost a flyaway freeze frame.
When he dives into that guy's body and murders him from the inside, boy, that's sick. When he stops all of the bullets that are coming, and he goes, "No thanks," and then pulls a bullet out and goes, "Think." That is just the coolest shit ever.
That's pretty legit.
Spoiler
like
alert.
the way like his I mean, because that's all like body and face acting, and it's like, oh, he looks like he looks like the one in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has that level of like confidence and like quizzical look, like, oh, check this out, I can just stop him. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Now
pretty
he's
cool.
I've done this the whole time.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
So cool.
Well, I think that is going to do it. I'm really glad you brought that stuff up. I did want to talk about it, so thank you for taking the reins on that. Yeah, why don't you give people one more chance to learn? Where can they find you? All that stuff.
You get one chance, and this is it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Moving
So
on
listen
then.
up. Your chances go to. I was going to say ScreenVomit.com. That's not even a thing.
Well, just try it. See what happens.
Find me on all your little apps, social media or podcast related at ScreenVomit on all of the things, Instagram, whatever. I'm there. I'm doing great at this. Linktree, I got all my links in there. linktr.ee/ScreenVomit. There you go.
We'll have all those
There you
links
go.
in there. Go
You
get
can
a
buy
shirt.
my cool shirts.
You can get this one. Coming soon will be the Dr. Michael Morbius Queer as Hell shirt. So keep your eyes out for that. Our collab we got going.
Fucked up and queer as hell. Coming soon.
That is a pretty rad name. Like, good idea for a shirt. I dig it.
Oh yeah.
Well, Kayla, thank you for joining us. If you're listening or you're watching, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support. You can find us on all your little apps and all the socials at 3filmspod, and you can check out our website. We do have a website. It's 3filmspod.com.
Brag.
You can find some shirts,
Rub it
but
in.
None of them are quite as cool as the Queer as Hell shirt that Kayla will soon have.
That doesn't exist.
On her
Once
link
I
tree.
learn how to do Photoshop, or I don't even know what programs do people be using for making shirt designs. Once I figure out what they are and how
Step
to use
one,
them,
figure out
it's
the
over,
programs.
Phil.
It's over.
Well, until then, thanks everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.